Okay, record on call. Okay,
Great.
so we
Thank
are
you.
recording now.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's okay. And that's a great idea. So just start off again. Good morning, everyone. We are very happy today, my community, to talk to club about the diversity and equity and inclusion. So before we start ahead, I like to read the Rotary International Statement about the diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a global network that strives to build a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change, Rotary values diversity and celebrate the contribution of people all backgrounds, regardless of their age, ethnicity, race, color, ability, religion, socioeconomic status, culture, sex, and sexual orientation, and the gender identity. Rotary will cultivate a diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture in which people from the represented group have a great opportunity to participate as a member and a leader. I find out very interesting the statement that I already shared in an international level, and more happy and proud that our club is well lined up with the statement. So to continue the presentation, I like to share my community member, just in case anyone have any question, you can reach out any of us. So our team member is the Rodney, Mark Lind, France Jeffrey, myself, Justinian Alves, and Wing Kai. So for any question, these are the members of this community. So reach out anytime with any question or suggestion as well. So about diversity, equity, inclusion, myself, I like to focus and talk about the equity and equality, because I do believe that diversity, we all diversity. God made us with our unique identity. So we are diversity by nature. But the thing that I like to talk is about the equity. One thing that I want to focus is about equity and equality. I think so those are the problems that we face today. As we know, like for organization, either way, religious, governmental, non-governmental, business, and some points, they are not diversity. And they have in place the system that treat the people equally. But the point that we start to embrace the diversity, treat the people equally, it's not a good way, because as we are diversity, each one of us, we have a different need, we have a different background, we start from different point. So we need to be understand and treat her as individually. That's why I like about the equity. I just want to present this picture that speak itself. What is the difference between the equity and equality? As you see, equality is treat the people the same, give them the same purpose of the fairness, for them to be joyful, but that's not gonna be successful because we see we have a different reason. So what I think is for us as a club, as an organization, is as we are become diverse, we need to understand different needs for each people and then treat them based on their need. That's one thing that I want to share with the club. In the diversity and the equality inclusion, I think the thing that we can focus and then be work on is about the equity and equality. One thing when I speak about the equity and equality, I think it's gonna lead me about accountability. We see so many organizations, so many business, which is very diversity. Let's say 100% diversity. But if there is no accountability, they can be 100% diversity and 0% equity and 0% inclusion, because there is no accountability. What I mean by accountability, when we say we are diversity, let's report how diverse we are. Like, for example, imagine a big organization. We have, like, for example, employee, all different background, all different color, all different race, ethnicity. But then you don't have them include on a different like position. Let's say you have an organization which is like 100% diversity, but on the leadership you are not diversity. You are not we are not, you don't include them, like, put it that way. So if there's not accountability, there's no one you're going to report on this matter. It's I think it's not a tech effect. It's not to be effective. So I think when we talk about diversity, also to take in consideration and see the result on the equity and inclusion, people has to be accountable. So that's what I want to share from my standpoint about diversity. It's taking consideration that we have to be equity, understand each people background individually and treat them based on that. And also, and somehow we have to be accountable, like put a report. For example, our organization is diversity, and then show the data and the map how we are diversity. That's what I think we need as a country, as an organization, day to day. So move on now. I'm gonna pass the word to Rodney so he can share a few words with us about this topic. It could be anything, could it be based on his experience or anything he prepared for us. So Rodney, I'm gonna pass the word to you right now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rodney.
So I'm just really gonna just talk on more just personal experiences, because I know we're hearing a lot, from the media about, systematic racism and how it affects some of the, the DEI there with the diversity, equity, inclusion. So I'm just going to talk about, some personal experiences where my own thoughts is some of it is not actually systematic. So my grandparents grew up as slaves in the South. My grandfather, as being enslaved, no high school education, dropped out of school maybe in 6th or 7th grade, was actually given land in his 20s by a white woman who he knew in the area because he could not get a loan to buy his own home. So she gave him land. He built on that land, owned his own home. He ended up paying her back over time. And when he actually passed away, as a person with no high school education, owned 2 homes outright in the South in North Carolina there, and grew his family there. Fast forward to, my parents, his son and some of his brothers moved up north looking for a better life, themselves only, now graduating from high school. But end up, working, they all the same thing, grew their families, had homes, now put their kids through college. And that's my generation through college there. All of us have college, most of my family members, cousins, siblings there also have our own homes, have their own families, and kind of growing those families there. So if you see, from almost 60 years ago that we have, that a white woman if we're looking at in the South, there's no inclination for her to actually give him that land and give him an opportunity. But she felt in her heart that it made sense because she knew him, she knew his family, that he was working hard, that he should give him that opportunity. But now we're in 2020, where if we're looking at, almost 60 years later, we're saying if that was 60 years ago and 60 years later, in terms of a lot of times it's talked about systematic, that if we're looking at learned practices, I think some of the practices are not always learned. Some of those practices are actually just personal. Because still myself in 2020, that, as some of you we've talked about before, in 2020, I still get pulled over as, the Black man living in the urban area, where if you just look at my background there, from high school, I'm top 5% in my class. From sports, top 100 in the state. College, top 100 on the Northeast. College, top 5% in my class. Graduated, 2 degrees. Technically, I have 2.5. Just never finished the, other associates. Now working, making 6 figures. My own home. This is actually my 3rd home. But yet I still get pulled over as if I'm doing something wrong just by the color of my skin. So sometimes when we're looking at some of this systematic, it's not really systematic there, as well as that some people in certain positions there, just how they see you. that they see you different in the workplace versus they seeing you on the streets. So in the workplace, I could be seen some way, but then as soon as I leave that place, I'm seen completely different. And those have just been my experience, that coming from, slave grandparents to now where we are today, yet we're still facing some of the same things in 2020 that they were seeing back in 1960. And I think that's where, some of the things that happens, just people's perceptions outside of the workplace, that they could have friends that are minorities, work with, minorities inside the workplace, and there's no issues. It's only when they're outside of the workplace.
Thank you, Rodney, for sharing your personal experience about this stuff. That was very important to us. So now I'm going to pass the word to the Mark Lane to talk a little bit about this topic as well. It could be anything you prepare or you want to experience.
Thank you, Justiniano, and thank you, Rodney. That was a really touching story. I'm sorry you still get pulled over. That every time I hear that from somebody, it breaks my heart. I'm going to talk from personal experience as well. I am the son of an immigrant to this country. My dad was born in Havana, Cuba, and he came here when he was 12 years old. His family literally left Europe before it got really bad. My grandparents were Poland and Ukraine, and they went to Cuba because they couldn't get into this country. So they lived there for 12 years very happily and successfully, but they wanted to come to the United States. And my dad and mom taught me to be involved and get involved in social justice issues from a really early age. I was inspired over at Brockton High. Jimmy Carter came and spoke to my freshman class, and that got me involved. But it also got me involved with the NAACP in Brockton, which had a very strong chapter. And it was formed by both a Jewish judge named Bernard Cohen and I think it was Harry or Henry Bernard. And the civil rights movement in the 60s was very much in play in Brockton. And these two men brought people into the freedom fighters and just got everybody involved. I was honored by the NAACP to present an award to Judge Cohen's wife when she posthumously to her husband for all of his work at their 60th anniversary. So I've just been involved as literally from the time I was 14. I had a social studies teacher that inspired me. But why I'm involved is I believe everybody is 100% equal. There should be no discrimination of any kind. Now, of course, that's utopian, but what I try to do in my daily life with my students, with my family, my wife Terry was married the first time to an African American, and her kids are biracial. And I don't want to worry about any of them getting stopped in a car or getting hurt in any way. We're just starting to talk to our grandson, who's 11 years old, about all this stuff, because he's asking questions about what's going on in school, what's going on in the country, and what's even going on with this election. So I have decided to just get involved, jump in with both feet here in Bridgewater. There is a great group that Fran and others in the group are involved with called Diversity and Inclusion for Community Engagement. And one of the things we're doing is we're looking at all the policies, we're looking at all the structures with the government in the two towns of Bridgewater and Raynham to make sure there's equity and inclusion. You look at our town council, there are 9 members. They're all 8 of them are white men, and 1 is an African American female. You look at the school committee, you look at the positions in government and the boards and commissions. So what we're trying to do is make sure that people are treated equitably and included in everything. And we're going through it line by line in the bylaws, and we're bringing to the attention of the town leaders what we can do to make things more equitable. I'm thrilled to have been asked to be involved. I got involved by going to one of the standouts after George Floyd was killed, and the Stand Up for Justice group in Bridgewater was going every Saturday for about 12 weeks, and then they've now switched it to monthly. They're doing an event this coming Saturday for the indigenous people, and we've had a chief from one of the tribes come down and talk to us. They did a water ceremony over at Titicut here in Bridgewater. There's a huge history here in Bridgewater that I'm just learning about. Bridgewater State is doing a great job right now with an Indigenous Peoples Conference, but I've found out that I don't know as much as I thought I did. And I am glad Rotary is getting involved. I'm glad we have a committee and we're going to make it a priority. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we can grow, we can learn, and we can make the change we need to do in this world. One of my favorite quotes that I have is by Elie Wiesel, who basically, I'm just trying to find it so I can say it right. It talks about we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we interfere when human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Wherever men and women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must, at this moment, become the center of the universe. That was the speech he gave, part of the speech he gave when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. So in Elie Wiesel's memory and in the memory of my great uncle, who was a Holocaust survivor, and his wife and daughter who did not survive, that's why I'm involved, and that's why we need to be the change we want to see in the world.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for sharing your personal experience and also with that, with everything's going on in the community. Thank you for that. At this point, I'm going to pass the word for Wing Kai. So, Inquire, you can share with us what you have prepared for this conversation topic as well.
I think Fran is going fourth. I'm last.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. So, France, can you go ahead and share with us?
Well, thank you, because I wanted to talk about inclusion, and that was a perfect segue, Wing Kai, as always. I think as we look at the diversity, again, part of our accountability will be to be sure that we're including people, that some people speak more quickly than others, for example. So being sure we, particularly as we know each other in this group, allow enough space for someone to actually speak, that we recognize the cues they're giving us, that particularly on Zoom, we're going to have to pay close attention, but often there's some who jump in more quickly, others who are holding back. So just giving a little bit of space in there before we close out a topic, and really listening to what the person's trying to say to you. Sometimes it's worded differently. There are all kinds of cues. And I think among us, we can just practice that. It's nothing wrong, but it makes it more, I think it makes us more sensitive as we go outside. And particularly it helps us be prepared either within our club or outside to have difficult conversations. I think we're committing now to not looking away, to not saying, well, that's just the way it is, or I'll never understand, or whatever it may be. It really, you just practice. And I think asking people have put themselves out and made themselves available by sharing their personal experiences. And I think what each person's saying, and certainly I know I am, is ask us. And don't assume that, for example, because you see me as a white person, that you know my story or you know the experiences I've had. So that would be my hope for you. I'm really honored to be part of the committee and part of the club and part of our stand and our move forward. I think other people are sitting back looking at Rotary's statement and saying, well, you know, we're nice. And it's different to be nice than to be intentionally diverse, intentionally equitable, intentionally inclusive. And that'll take us some practice. So, all right, Wenkai, you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Wenkai, you muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute him.
Sorry.
Oh.
I try to, there's some noise here. I think I really appreciate the, you know, everyone has spoken about how the definitions of equity and inclusion are more than just being diverse. And our club is being diverse, has been called, you know, one of the more diverse clubs in the district. But I think we could also be a model of inclusion and equity as well. I just have a lot of respect for all the fellow club members. I know most of you about your lifetime work for people of all backgrounds. So I think the club is, you know, putting service above self, really living up to the standards of Rotary. But what we are talking about here is really try to, you know, learn from each other and grow together. And we don't have all the answers. We don't just, not just 5 of us represent diversity and the values of equity. So the committee is the beginning to think about how we can learn from each other and how we can use this club to interact with other Rotary clubs in the district, and whether we can do something together in the Rotary organization. It also gives us another way to think about our relationship to the community, our relationship to other organizations that have devoted their full attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for example, our model is really focusing on, you know, raising funds and supporting people in need and doing service and to promote our, you know, goodwill. But I think we can also think about, you know, are there other ways to help the more marginalized, racialized communities in particular? Or are there any programs that could help people who are discriminated or being oppressed, or things like that? So, you know, I start with this, but I'll go back step back a little bit just about my personal experience. Like the folks before me, I'm talking about as, you know, I know that there may be 3 or 4 of us here who are foreign born. You know, we came to this country with our really kind of ideals that we can be both. We can be American, we can also be honest to our heritage, and actually think about how we can actually develop multiple identities and not just one identity. So I think we always ask whether do we belong or do we fit in. I think those are the wrong questions. The questions should be, you know, being a minority or, you know, an ethnic minority, you're not just try to integrate and assimilate and fit in. You should be able to maintain your own kind of self and your history and your past, and make an America not like a melting pot, but more like a salad bowl, so everyone can have their own kind of take about how things can grow. And the idea that this is divisive is being used in politics to say that because you're different, and because you talk about diversity, you try to have some programs for employees and to try to avoid discrimination that is being un-American. I don't really think that that's really how we should be doing. So, you know, just today I was posting about a policy that the government tried to end, ask the universities to end diversity programs, and they should not teach diversity at all. So I think there are people who are against, people who don't look like them. There are people who actually feel uncomfortable with that. Each ethnic group has their stereotypes. Immigrants sometimes are called stealing the jobs of the natives. African Americans are considered dangerous for people. Asians are considered foreign. And these are all stereotypes that cannot be changed if people hold on to all these ideas. We need to be a little bit more sensitive to everyone's own identities and own differences. It doesn't mean that we agree with everyone. Everyone is different, but we should accept who they are and how they do. So that's what my own philosophy. But I wanted to speak at the end is that I would have 3 suggestions, or 3 words. One is education, the second is outreach, and the third is growth. So I like to have these 3 goals for us, that we educate each other. If we see something useful, we share. We share the educational resources, including the community, the university, the organization, and the news, and we try to do some outreach. Just by each month, we can have one speaker that is devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it can come from different perspectives. One month could be an educator, the other month could be in the criminal justice system, and then the next month could be police reforms. Those are some of the different things that could be talked about from different perspectives. And I also like the fact that we could collaborate with other Rotary clubs and that have been doing the similar kind of work, and have joint programs. Instead of meeting every week and reporting out, we might do a joint program and change one of the meetings to a Zoom meeting or Zoom discussion with another club, and do similar things to educate ourselves. Or we can participate in programs and that talk about civic learning or talk about racial justice. For example, tomorrow night, my friend Mike Krisanik will speak about the election with the Bridgewaters Group for Civility and Respect. So I think everyone should tell each other about anything exciting or interesting or educational in your community, so we can learn from each other and grow from each other. So again, I really appreciate. I'm one of the newest members in the club, so but I've been following Frank Jeffries and Mike Krisanik all the time in Bridgewater. So I know that everyone is doing such outstanding work. This is not a critique. This is not to say that anyone is not doing enough. This is to suggest that we all have our own learning curve. I don't know a lot of things about other groups too. So, yeah, so I think that would be exciting if we can have an opportunity to learn more from different perspectives.
Yeah. Thank you, Winkai, for the presentation you did to us about this topic. As we went through all the members, it was amazing what we learned today about this diversity, equity, inclusion. I appreciate how they need to start in a way share the one experience. It was touch experience, and also Mark, Winkai, and friends to talk about this stuff, not just in a philosophy way, but a shared content which is real and something they experience in their one life. At this moment, the conversations is open to all members of the club to asking questions and maybe share their one experience also with the when they start. So if anyone has anything to share, question, feel free. Okay, I'm gonna pass the word right now for the admin who want to share something. I just want to unmute first. Okay.
Okay, I was just going to ask a question. How many first-generation Americans do we have in the club? 2, a key? 3, I quickly
And I
counted
think
5, right?
John Fernandez also, I
Oh,
think.
6.
Yeah.
I think.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unique experience. I'm a
I think
second
John was born
generation,
here.
but
Oh, okay. Sorry.
yeah, that's a unique perspective for the club is to have such a large number
Yeah.
first-generation Americans. That's great.
Our club is very diverse.
Yeah.
And I would say included too. Yeah. So I'm gonna pass the word. Sorry, friends, you want to say something?
No.
Sorry, I tried to interrupt. I'm gonna pass the word for the Margarita. Want to say something, Margarita?
Yes, I just want, first of all, thank you all for sharing your personal stories. Totally humbling to hear the experience that everybody goes through. Everybody has their own unique and personal story. As Fran said, just because I'm a white woman does not mean I don't have a story. I actually was born, as many of you know, I was born in the Azores and moved here at 13. You know, and kids at that age can be very mean. But I was so determined that I'm like, oh my goodness, I have a second chance at going to school. I kind of ignored all, you know, the remarks and, you know, whatever the kids were saying. I was like, I had the mindset to do that. I'm sure I didn't have some of the challenges that some other individuals may have because of the color of my skin. It does not mean that, you know, people did not make fun of me because I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anything. I dressed differently. But you get past that. I actually wrote an article. I write for this Portuguese magazine on a bi-monthly. I'll send you a copy of that. It was actually about everything that Winkai was saying. You know, how do you live with those two identities, right? You're living with a culture at home and another culture outside your home. And how do you, you know, try to integrate both? Because you really don't want to, you're still your own person. Yeah, I really appreciate everybody's story this morning. Thank you for sharing. And I'll
Thank you.
forward you that article about the two cultures, and you just feel that sometimes you feel like a little pinball, you know, because in your family, my mom still doesn't speak the language, so
Yeah.
I take her. I feel like I've been the mom since I was 13 because I had to. I was in the back seat of the car when my older siblings were taking driver's ed, trying to translate for them. So by the time I went to get my permit, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing, I think. Or taking them to the doctors to translate. So we just, you know, make that happen. As a matter of fact, I just took my mom yesterday to see her cardiologist, and she, you know, we've been here 40 years and she does not know the language, or so it's a challenge. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Margarita, for sharing your experience with us. Is anyone else want to say something? Okay, I'm gonna pass the word to the mic.
Janet has something. You're muted, Janet.
All right.
There you go.
Not muted, no, I think, yeah. I certainly, just been lots and lots of things happening, but I feel like it's really important for all of us to educate ourselves in how to, one thing that BCCR has done, the Bridgewater Citizens for Civility and Respect, is to teach people how to respond to acts of unkindness, you know, without escalating the situation. And I feel like for myself, and I've done lots and lots of reading right now, I'm reading Anti-Racism, the book by Kendi, which is excellent. And there's a Black Lives Matter film series that the Unitarian Church and BCCR is sponsoring that anyone can participate in to go to and of course it's on Zoom, but many times we watch a film on our own and then discuss it. But I just feel like, we are at a crossroad to really make some serious changes in how we treat other people. And that's what it boils down to. We're all people. We're all part of the human race. And so I just feel like I've had I have a lot more support in terms of figuring out what I can do personally as a white privileged woman in this country to help everybody so everyone has opportunities. So don't get stopped on the street because they're driving while black. It just gets me. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jane, for sharing. So, Mike.
Thank you, Justin. I just want to mention, I think this whole presentation has been just simply wonderful and quite impressive. And I've learned a lot, and I just have gained a greater appreciation of what Justin Miano and his group is doing. I just want to mention the fact that since this is being recorded, and maybe Deb has probably thought about this already, this should be distributed to every Rotary Club in our district as an example of what we're doing and the seriousness with which we take this issue. And the stories that have been presented here, I think, are going to be enormously influential in terms of people thinking about the equity and inclusion and diversity program here. So my only recommendation is that this is not just for us. This should be for everybody. And I compliment all the members of this group for doing a great job. We shouldn't let this pass here. This is a very powerful tool that we can use not only to promote our club, and more importantly, to promote the three goals that we're talking about. So great job.
We could post this conversation on the club's YouTube channel, and then everybody can click in and see it.
I will make the video available to us, and Ed, you can help us with that.
No
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass the word to the Deb. She has some word to share with us.
Thank you for the heartfelt messages everybody shared this morning. And yes, Mike, that was one of the reasons I wanted this recorded. I do believe that we are definitely far ahead of many clubs in this district. And I believe we need to share what we are as a club. But not only that, I think it was Wing Kai that said we have 3 goals that we should try to work on. That's education, outreach, and growth. And I believe that is so important. And that is how we are going to develop this even further, I believe, by just working on those 3 items. Someone had said, and I apologize for not remembering, but we have so much to learn. We have bragged about being a diverse club, but I think it comes down to more than just talking about it. We have to act on it, and we have to be accountable. And that was the one other word that really stuck with me, the accountability. I think this is just the beginning for our club. It's not the beginning for our committee. I know they've been working very, very hard on this. It is touching to hear the stories of the members of this club. We're only 22 people and we all have stories. Can you only imagine as we open up to the world, the stories? So yes, in fact, I want to share this meeting. My first step will be with Billy Roberts. He is our district chair on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I don't want this to be the last meeting. I think we have to move forward. We have to talk about this always. And in this club, I would like to see it happen often. It's so, so important. And I believe that at the same time as Wing Kai had shared that we should get involved with other clubs. The first club that comes to mind, I do believe, is the Duxbury Club. They are very, very excited to speak with us. I shared that with Justiniano. So we do have some connections with other clubs at the same time. But I thank each of you for sharing your heartfelt messages. I think when we hear it personally with people that we associate with, it really hits home. So thank you so much, all of you. Yes, Wing Kai.
I think this is really a good way to know each other better, because it's just not just 5 of us. You know, I feel like every week we have this meeting, we do a lot of formalities and also bring up an outside speaker and just doing the reports. But other than the people that I frequently work with, and that's all, we know each other. But just speak for half an hour and 45 minutes, you know a lot more about each of us. For those of you who don't know us already, very well already. So I think this could apply to every one of us as well. We can spend some time to do some work together, just to appreciate each other's company and hear about each other's story and talk about each other's lives a little bit. I think that could still be a part of learning and growing together. So I would not say that this would be the norm, but this is like once a month, and it's really helpful. So I'd like to hear from the rest of you too.
Yeah, Deb?
Yes.
On that, we have a lot of new members. We used to do a systematic autobiography, each member being the speaker for the meeting, and talk about their lives. So,
right,
you know, their families, that they came from, where they came from, the background, their education, their own families, so that, you know, we all had ties, and we all felt more connected as a group. We've kind of gotten away from that, because we basically had a switch and a shift in membership, and we brought in a lot of new people. But you know, those of it like Fran and Janet and have been around here for a while, and Tom, we and Beth, this is what we used to do, so everybody knew the backgrounds of everybody. And I think that would be helpful again, to refresh each club member's history and biography. Well,
I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing Wing Kai do that last fall.
Yep.
One day, yeah.
Well, we'll definitely put that on our monthly agenda to have someone speak. I think it's very, very important. Thank you.
Yeah. I hope I didn't miss anyone. So if there is no more comment, I know the time is about to end. I'm gonna thank you everyone, especially my community, for being here with us today and to share all those information. I think is get us exciting and to be more proactive about the diversity, equity, inclusion. We discussed some plan of the action, what we should do. I'm gonna list them all and share with the Deb, and then as the time be properly, we will take action on those plans. For now, I'm gonna pass the word to Deb, and she can close the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much to you, Justiniano, and to each member of this committee. At this time, it is closing out of our Wednesday meeting. I appreciate everybody here. And as always, stay well, and we will see each other next week.
Right. Everybody
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.